Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. I want to share something from, it was a Christianity Today article written by Philip Yancey back in June of 1996. And so he was asked to address a topic called culture wars. And so even though that was 1996 and maybe the terminology is a little different, I think we still have culture wars, if you know what I'm saying. And so he was in front of this large gathering. Then most people there, he said, were from a more liberal democratic persuasion, and there was a minority of Jewish people there as well. He was selected as the token evangelical Christian on the panel that included the presidents of Disney Channel and Warner Brothers, as well as the president of a very liberal college. And so as he prepared for the talk, he looked to the words of Jesus for guidance, only to be reminded of how unpolitical Jesus really was. He said, today when elections roll around, Democrats and Republicans will say, this is God's man for the job, right? You know, we've all heard people say that, and Christians debate that. Which one is God's woman for the job? But he says, I have difficulty imagining Jesus pondering whether Tiberius, Octavius, or Julius Caesar was God's man for the empire. He said, I was also struck by that when Christians lose the culture war. So there's a lot of persecution in China, especially in the 60s and 70s. And I had the privilege of smuggling Bibles in the late 80s. But so there's this big persecution, and all these people are getting thrown in jail. All this bad stuff's happening to Christians, and missionaries are kicked out of there. And what happened? There's this incredible revival. Maybe 50 million. It might be the greatest revival in the history of the world. All orchestrated under this regime that was persecuting them. And I like what he says, as many as 50 million believers gave their allegiance to an invisible kingdom, even as the visible kingdom made them suffer for it. Wow, that's real faith. That's really faith. So when it came his time to speak, he told the group, he said, I follow a man, a Palestinian Jew from the 1st century. And he'd also been involved in a culture war. He went up against the rigid religious establishment of his day and also the pagan empire. And the two powers that often did not get along, well, they conspired together. They got along when it came to him. They conspired together to eliminate Jesus. And his response, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. No, he chose not to fight. But he gave his life for his enemies. And to point to that gift as proof of his love. That's it. We look at the cross and we say, there we see the love of God. And not when we were friends of God, but when we were his enemies. And what did he say from the cross? Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Oh my goodness. What an incredible apolitical response, right? So after the panel, after it was over, he said that a television celebrity came up to him and he said, and you would all recognize the name, so I'll leave that up to you to figure that out. But the guy came up and he said, I got to tell you, what you said stabbed me right in the heart. He said, I was prepared to dislike you because I dislike all right-wing Christians and I assumed you were one. At least he's being honest about his bias. He said, I don't follow Jesus, I'm a Jew. But when you told about Jesus forgiving his enemies, I realized how far from that spirit I am. I have much to learn from the spirit of Jesus. Wow, I just thought that was, how about it? You know, Jesus, a lot of times we think, you know, we want to be right, we want to go this way. Jesus went totally against the grain of what anyone would have expected him to do. And that message still cuts to people's hearts when we declare it and proclaim it unfiltered, and just tell the story of Jesus and follow in along behind him and love our enemies. God bless you. Have a great day.